Welcome back to the Tools and Track low cost build. In this episode, I am Iron Man. Quick interlude. I bought these crazy oversized G-clamps at the end of the last episode, just to help me keep the steel on the cutty thing when I'm doing the cutty thing. Look at this, they've got wee spirit levels in them. I was like, can't see where that's useful. Well, now I can, in a big way. Look at this. In my effort to put these G-clamps somewhere that I wouldn't lose them, I stuck them on the end of the big build bench. And once they've gone on there, I noticed something rather interesting about the end of the big build bench. Can you see that? We've got some flexing. Looks like we're going to have to modify this if I'm ever going to get a flat surface. Why am I being so fastidious about this? Look over here when I lift the bench. That's probably more error than I'm going to be happy with. I think this will be the first time I've ever had sawdust mixing in with my metal dust. I don't care anymore. The good thing about that is it cauterises it as it cuts. Probably about to break the internet when you can't use a steel cutting disc on wood. Well, I can, I just did. Up you! Yeah, that's much better. That'll do. Right, that's my bench level. Next up, we need to start looking at securing this frame so we can get it welded up. I want to get this firmly clamped to the bench so that it's ready to be welded exactly right. And for that, we've got fans. We've got amazing fans that have got amazing things, such as 3D printers. This is what I call the McChesney clamp. Most importantly, Tools and Track logos, because it's for Tools and Track. These are not an inch by inch gap. I have made this slightly wider than an inch, and this gap here slightly shorter than an inch. So there's lots of clearance for me to jiggle around, and when I bite it down, there's going to be a gap here, which means it will grip to the steel and hold it in place. So let's start putting these to use and see if we can get this base ready to weld. Right, I'm going to start at the back because this is a nice simple square to weld up. So we're going to go for something I think like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to need my tool. Right, we're going to have to weld this in stages, and I'm going to have to buy more wood. To be quite honest, I'm probably going to buy more wood. I'd like to do all this in one shot. To our local wood wholesalers we go. Trip 2 to get wood, and I'm pleased to say wood has been did, and places like to diversify a bit on the channel, you know, spread the love between different faceless wholesalers. And then I see this. What are you doing here?
Just getting out of the house for you.
Loitering around car parks. And I say loitering around car parks because the TT, which you'll remember from an episode up here, sounds slightly different. Are you happy with yourself? Anyway, I'm going to load. I'm going to see. Hopefully I don't need to call Alan, because I'm hoping this should maybe fit in the car. If not, how big's your TT?
Not big enough.
Yeah. Would you like to see what I've got in plan for this? One trip to a friendly wood wholesaler later, and we've got enough for another 6 legs, I think. So I hope this is like 2.4 metres long or something. I'm hoping 1.2 metres is about the rough height of what I'm there. Let's find out. Basically, just over 3 foot, which is good. 8 foot. 20. You up for some chopping, big boy?
Oh yes.
Right, okay, so rich.
Quite a lot. More it.
Just give me 92. 92. I'll 91. We'll go with 91 then.
Why don't you go with a metre and then trim it down?
Well, we'll go with 91. Okay? Right. And then we can pack it if we need to add stuff, but if it's too big, it will be there if I ever try to take it off.
Right, okay.
So 91 centimetres is what I need to add. Now that may seem like a failure.
And it was.
Sorry, I wasn't going to carry on there, man.
That's a scientific shit. You need a wee rest, mate. You're struggling there.
You know, I can pump saws all day long, but see, as soon as I bend in.
Aye, that's what comes with it, doesn't it? I find that as well.
Of course, it's thing about you take it for some sort of half-assed lunatic that doesn't do things right. I have a friend that's starting a vape channel.
A YouTube channel?
Doing vape reviews.
Vape reviews? Okay. Do you think he'll be off to a smoky start?
No, but if he's not a Patreon, I'm not going to say the name of his channel.
You commercial parasite.
This is how it works. Honestly, mate, it's like, see Scotland at the moment, £3 a month is like an ox on a pool.
For £3 a month, you can sponsor 2 dodgy men who cut about in units.
Can I cut wood? Hello, I am dressing steel because we're going to do all the welding, kind of tacking it in place. So even while I'm tacking, this must be ready to fully do welds, because once it's all tacked, I can't really take it apart to then dress it up. So a bit of pokery. That's what we're going to do, and then we're going to start welding. Promise you, we'll start welding in this episode at some point. Let me start using these next one. On the f***ing money. Welcome back to Tools and Track University. In this instalment, Professor Bob Ag is showing mechanical odor how to weld. That's frightening. So, there's a number of factors that you need to consider when you're doing welding. For the Locost, we're going to be going with MIG. Why? It's common, it's easy, and it gives you good welds.
And that's something inert gas?
Metal.
Metal inert gas. What's TIG?
Tungsten.
Tungsten inert gas.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Stick.
Right. The stick.
Stick welding's without gas and is for farmers only. Gas, in this case, argon, which is inert. You can also use carbon dioxide, or a carbon dioxide and argon mix if you're feeling particularly bold.
Can you use xenon?
Use xenon if you can get it. To join 2 bits of metal, you need to make sure you prep them first. This is the steel bar that we're doing most of the chassis out of, and it looks pretty clean and shiny. However, it is nowhere near prepped enough for us to join with a weld. Before we join these two, we need to buff the surfaces that we're going to weld against. So each side that we are joining against must be clean and shiny. For that, you will need a grinder and a flat disc.
This is not a flat disc.
A flap?
Flap?
Flap.
Is that what this is?
It's got flaps on it.
This is a flat disc.
Look at the flaps, enjoy the flaps, absorb the flaps. Now let's move on. Dressing is basically preparing. Dress each of those so that they're shiny, and then dress all of that area there. We're going to weld here, and we're going to weld here. If you are going to go all to town in that, you need to prep this part as well, because you're going to run a seam weld along there. But for the purposes of this, let's just do it.
Let's weld sideways one.
There you go, spot the difference. Look shiny, actually shiny. That is what you need. What you then need to do is set up your welder. This is a MIGmate 105. Why did I choose a MIGmate? Because it's cheap. It's also quite effective, and it'll do most of the welding you'll ever need to do on an amateur level in a garage. On the MIG, you will have this. This is the amperage, so if you want to basically glue and have no strength in your steel at all, you put it down to minimum. Up to medium is a bit more than glue, and then up to maximum is what you actually need to weld metal. Why these have anything short of that, I don't know. Better welders will actually have an adjustment knob or a dial that will fine tune that. If you're ever welding steel in a car, especially tube steel, and you're using a 105 MIGmate, full. This is for low and high feed rate on your wire speed, and this is the actual fine tune on the wire speed. You can't see because there's a bar in the way because I've not set the camera right. Good place to start is in the middle. Now I have been using this for quite some time, and I find even in the middle the feed is quite fast. So I usually go around about 11 o'clock. That is going to need fine tuning, and nobody can actually tell you, you just need to figure it out and work it yourself. But that's roughly where we want to be. We'll demonstrate these two. Shall we demonstrate these two?
Let's demonstrate.
Okay, well let's go with a wire speed that's far too fast. Max! The last bit of equipment that you will need if you're an apprentice is about to weld.
A helmet.
A helmet.
A helmet.
Make sure you polish your helmet before you start. Why am I polishing my helmet, in particular the top part? This is an auto darkening helmet. you will see here there are solar panels. Now, a lot of people say, but it's pretty dark in my unit. It doesn't really get charged. Yes, but a welder gives off UV light, so it charges the minute you fire it up. Flip it all the way to it clicks, that's it off. Now, you want to go all the way to full. If you're welding in an arc, you want this to darken as much as you can. The good part is, I can still see you through a green tint. How many fingers are you holding up? None. Proof.
Oh, this is mad.
See, now you can see what you're
I can
doing.
see.
Exactly. Now this is demonstration number 1. Far too much wire speed. I usually support the gun with
You
one
can
hand.
touch the metal, yeah.
You can absolutely touch the metal, you're not getting in the way of the current in this.
Holy shit, man.
So, hear the noise? Bum 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 bum. It's pushing steel out, and you'll see there, we've got not bad penetration, but there's far too much weld on there. Similarly, if I turn this down to near enough zero, you'll hear that really not doing anything. And similarly, you're not really getting enough weld
That's a
on.
proper shock to the eyes, even with this on.
And this is the kind of weld you want to be getting.
Oh, that's hot.
Yes, it will get very hot.
Holy cow.
So you'll see the blue lines around about here.
Aye.
That's the heat penetration.
Distortion.
You want to see a good sign of that. For example, there. It's not distortion, it's heat penetration. If you don't have that, it's not a good weld because
Okay.
there's not enough heat that's went through the two metals.
Okay.
On that, it's not bad. Burned a lot because I think you've moved it too quick, and you can
I
also see
did. I
that.
moved it way too far as well.
You have moved it too far and you moved it too fast, and you can see that by the indentations and the gaps through the
Aye.
weld pool you've left. Okay.
Nice. It started okay, but to the end it just went...
Well, it's quite hard to see. We're not using any anti-splatter spray or anything like that. This is just straight stuff. But that's not too bad, mate. That's not too bad.
I tried to go for a wee run that time.
That weld will hold for a very long time, but it doesn't look that.
Oh no, it looks f***ing dreadful.
Do absolutely go buy a welder. Do try this. Do practice it.
Don't go and see a therapist or have antidepressants. Just buy a welder.
Buy a welder or just piss yourself.
This man likes playing with fire.
Right, following a successful welding session for practicing, it's customary to batter it. Let's see if these welds are actually any good. How much force is this going to take to break this weld?
Oh, there you go, it's going.
Yeah. So we can see what welds are breaking.
Ah,
And
but
actually
there's the
see which
holes.
ones are holding. Because what's happening here is it's distorting the metal and pulling that out. So these wee pigeon shit ones, that's a fantastic demonstration. I'm so chuffed with this.
Ah, it's completely misshaped the metal. The welds aren't giving up, it's the metal that's giving up.
Some of the welds are holding and some of them are breaking up.
Ah, of course.
So these ones that we were saying before that had poor penetration on the sides, they've started to crack. But interestingly, these strong ones, they've got good penetration.
Were they both you? Aye.
They're holding it. They're actually pulling the steel up with it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Okay, we've welded up this and it's looking okay. Now we're going to start welding in these two like slight angled degrees ones to the front. This is going to be possibly the trickiest part of the entire base, simply because these aren't tying into anything. As you'll see at the front where the engine and the gearbox part goes, it doesn't actually have a link bar that goes between it. So what we need to do here is measure from that far corner up to here, and then repeat the same on the other side, and just make sure that those measurements tie in, and hopefully that'll tack weld okay. If we start having issues down at the front, we'll know why, because obviously that hasn't happened. Fingers crossed. Right, so this is what I mean by fancy measurements. What you need to do, according to this Bible, now we're going back to this guy, as opposed to sticking with the other big Bible bollocks we're using, because this one helpfully has the cross section, the cross diameter measurements. I don't know, what do you call this? The diagonal measurements. It tells you what this measurement needs to be before you weld this up. So we're going to measure this and then we're going to clamp it up. So we're looking for 1118. Now, mechanical hold on over in the other corner, we'll see that there is a clamp there with the number 10 at exactly where the corner needs to be.
Affirmative.
Correct. Now I'm going to measure 1128 on the other side, and hopefully that is going to be correct. So 1218. I mean, my math is good. You think I was an engineer? There we go. So, right. Let's weld again. Like we did last summer. Alright, so I take it back, you can't actually triangulate that by just running a big length of steel across the two of them and making sure it's straight. You know, so we're at an interesting juncture here, whereby I'm running out of talent. Now if you have a look down here in the board, you'll see that I've just split the car in half, okay? Now all of this is fairly easy to work out. We've got a back here, a middle here, and a front here. Now as you can see, you can measure all of this and triangulate it and like make sure it all measures and it's square. That's fine, you know, and it works, and it has worked up until now because this is actually measuring perfect. The problem is from here forward, there's not a lot in the way of straight angles or edges for us to measure off of. So I think the most sensible thing we're probably going to do is start looking at a centre line. We measure the halfway between here and here, that'll be a centre line. We can do the same here, and that's a centre line, and that will allow us to project forward a perfect centre line to the front of the car. Now from that centre line we can measure halfway between each bit of steel and make sure that they sit bang on where they need to be. It works in my head, so that's what we're going to do. Now I should also highlight at this juncture, this is where we start to differ between the two plans. On the original, if you're building up, if you've got the budget to go and find an Escort Mark II or Mark 1 and kill it, then this won't matter because this bar exists because the engine and the gearbox are so small that you have this bar. But on the MX-5 it's a bit bigger, so there's a gap here because obviously the MX-5 lump engine and gearbox that sits here takes up a bit more space. We're going to nip all this down, find our centre lines, and I'm going to then mark the centre line here as well, and that should actually help too. If the centre line's right, my measurement's alright. Not, we're welding this up to my f***ing Sharpie.
Felt tip pen. It's not actually a felt tip, what do you call that? It's like a CD pen.
Is it?
Or is it a felt tip? I don't know. It would be a felt, I mean it's felt with ink in it, so it might be a felt tip.
Well, let's go with that.
If one of the viewers could do us a favour and log on to www.penisland.com and just check for us. Is that a felt tip pen?
And just like that, we had a spot welded chassis. That's the bottom ready to get properly welded up. Unfortunately, I've run out of gas because that's what happens when you do lots and lots of welding.
We've run out of argon, not so much gas. There's been plenty of gas in this unit today.
Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to everyone who's done the Patreon thing. Really appreciate that. Tune in next week where we... It won't be next week. It's not going to be next week.
No.
Tune in next time when we weld this up. Flip it upside down, weld some more of it up, make more grinding dust, flip it back round, and then start adding some height. Hit subscribe down here, catch the next episode here, do the bell thing, do all that jazz, catch you next time.
And watch me hammering the back end next time.
Ugh.